Jakob Ingebrigtsen wins the Lausanne Diamond League convincingly after winding up the pace in typical Ingebrigtsen fashion to finish in a fast 3:27.83. Cole Hocker came second after outkicking Hobbs Kessler in the last 150 metres, but I think the main takeaway from this race is that Jakob Ingebrigtsen has still got it. Let's break down this race quickly and also discuss the implications this has on the upcoming Silesia Diamond League on Sunday, where Jakob will try and take on a stacked field in the 3000 metres. The race started with the runners slotting into the positions you would expect them to, given their likely race strategy. Jakob did what he always does by tailing the pacemakers and leading the entire pack. Cole Hocker settled into third place, ready to move up onto Jakob's shoulder for a fast kick in the event that Ingebrigtsen tires. The pacers had been requested to run a solid 150.5 through 800 metres, which for reference is about 327.2 if they were to keep up that pace. So it seems Ingebrigtsen had no intention of the world record for this meet, which is not altogether unexpected. I think at this stage he just needs a confidence builder, and he's not run a huge number of races this season compared to what he normally does. And this is likely due to him of course focusing on the Olympics. So of course the goal for him would be to win, but I think he would care much less about trying to get a super fast time and more just focus on trying to beat Hocker and maybe build his confidence for the upcoming Zurich Diamond League. Also the fact that he's racing on Sunday means he probably wants to ensure he recovers well from that. Although Jakob did come in as the favourite since the race was paced, there was still going to be quite a lot of pressure on him, given that he's still the man to beat when it comes to paced races. It's pretty clear that he's lost the aura he may have had going into many top championship races, but he's always been untouchable in the Diamond League. And I think Jakob Ingebrigtsen would want to make sure that he preserves that aura for the time being, and doesn't try anything too risky such as trying to run a 3:26. This more cautious mindset going into the race seemed to influence the Norwegian's decision making in the race, because the first thing of note to happen is that a gap began to open between Jakob and the pacers after only 300 metres. I think it's quite possible that the Norwegian wanted to make sure that he had a good idea of how his legs were feeling before going for the kill. He stated after the Olympic final that he felt very strong around the 800 metre point, and this is what prompted what would end up being a suicide charge down the back straight. Of course he realised he was not in as strong a state as he thought and gassed hard in the final 100 metres. So Jakob's failure to gauge where his legs were actually at cost him dearly in the Olympic final. Whilst of course he has run faster, a 3:27.2 is a very fast pace for any athlete, and Jakob may have decided to drop off the paces just so he could better gauge how his legs were feeling without risking bonking near the end of the race. What also makes me think this is that Jakob then regained contact with the pacers with around 800 metres to go, so he would have had some time to figure out where his legs were at and realise that he was probably in good shape to start pushing it a little bit. Because of course he still needs to keep in mind that if the race gets too tactical, Hocker is just going to sit on his shoulder and outkick him in the final stretch. So with 800 to go, Jakob begins to wind up the pace, and it leads us to the very final 400 metres of the race. The last lap starts with Jakob in the lead, with Hobbs Kessler and Cole Hocker trailing slightly behind. The back straight was where you could see that Hocker was really working, and whilst Jakob was of course working as well, he looked a little bit more comfortable. You can see him here looking up the monitor to try and gauge how tired his competition was, and I think this is maybe where he realised that he has a good shot of this race. It's not something that you can easily pick up, but if you rewatch this clip a little bit, you can see that Hocker is starting to grimace and really showing signs of tiring. In the final 150 metres, Ingebrigtsen looks to be in control. He also benefited a lot from the fact that Kessler was acting as a shield between him and Hocker, because Kessler had actually been in second place for all of this race. We can see here that Hocker realises that Jakob has a lot of space in between them, given that they're about to hit the last 100 metres, and is therefore forced to overtake Kessler in the bend to ensure that Jakob doesn't just run away from him. Of course he expends extra energy doing so, and it's too little too late. It seems Ingebrigtsen was able to run the legs out of Hocker, so the Norwegian simply increases his lead, and finishes with a solid 10 metre gap between him and Hocker. Overall, it's a good performance from Jakob, and even if Hocker did not really challenge for the win, he still got his second fastest time in the 15 and a sub 3:30 time, so you can never be too disappointed with that. He said in a Citius Mag interview post-race that he was pretty happy with the performance, given that it's his first race after the Olympics, and he also said that he felt the pressure of being the Olympic champion going into this race.
This is my first time racing after, being announced as Olympic champion, and I feel the pressure already, but...
This is one of the reasons I bet on Jakob winning this race that I mentioned in my pre-race breakdown a few days ago. I feel like this factor wasn't really being considered by most people, which is that Hocker is going to be mentally exhausted after dealing with all the hype and media that comes from being Olympic champion, especially after pulling an upset in such an anticipated race given the Kerr and Ingebrigtsen rivalry. And Josh Kerr. So Cole Hocker kind of got forgotten about a little bit by non-American fans. And from Hocker's perspective, this means he'll be experiencing a sudden spike in popularity and interest from both brands and media. Winning the Olympic final is always going to do that for you. But winning the final in such a spectacular fashion, and in probably one of the most hyped Olympic finals we've seen in years, he must be drowning in all the requests from media and brands to do deals and interviews with him. And whilst I'm sure he'll be able to handle it, this will definitely be a new experience for him, and it will tire him out. Josh Kerr spoke about this after the race, about how so you can at least trust some of what I say. One thing we can say about this race is that it's also maybe a little extra confident in my prediction that Jakob will unfortunately not break the world record this Sunday in the 3000 metres. It is of course possible that he's just saving his energy for that day, but although he won the race comfortably, it was quite far off from a performance that suggests he's in world record shape. There's a great photo of him smiling at the camera post-race, but again, anyone can put a brave face on for a second. I do think he could have run a little faster tonight, but I doubt he would be able to run much faster than a mid to low 3:27, which is of course still rapid. But for him to convince me that he's going to have a solid shot of the 3K world record this weekend, he needs to be touching 3:26. Silesia is just happening a little too soon after the Olympics, and I think most athletes' goals now are just recovering for that Olympics and building to slightly bigger races such as the Zurich Diamond League, where first, second, third and fourth place in the 1500m Olympic final will all be competing. If you want to see a more detailed breakdown of the Silesia Diamond League 3000 meters and a more detailed analysis as to whether Jakob will beat the 3000m world record, then click on this video here. And if you're interested in more race analysis and post-race reactions like these, then feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy training.